how did you get into your practice? Like, what led you to where you are now? Tell us your story.
Okay. I'll try and nutshell it. Well, currently I'm a recovery and life transition coach, and I've rebranded myself as that. I'm certified as a wellness coach and an addiction coach. And I'm also trained yoga instructor, and I've studied, I did a 500-hour program years ago, and then another 201 specifically geared around codependency and addiction. So yoga for those in particular.
Wow.
And,
is that here in Denver?
No, I used to kind of venture out to LA once a month on the weekends when I lived in Phoenix, and then I just moved there to study with my teacher for a while.
How long were you there? Who'd you study with? I lived there for 8 years. My family friends are there. I go back every 3 months.
You're from there or whatever. I don't know if you know, his name is Robert Bernberg. It was a very small situation. So it was he and his wife. She's an Ayurvedic clinician. And just six or eight of us, it kind of fluctuated, would go to their house in Silver Lake one full weekend a month and have like these intensives.
Wow.
And yeah, so we do like a portion of it, Ayurveda, and the rest of it with him. And it was individualized yoga therapy. So like the Deskachar lineage, really, focusing in on, just the person and what they need, including breathing techniques and the physical postures and the meditations and the sutras, if they're into it, that whole gamut.
So you were trained to work with people one-on-one with using yoga as a modality to heal.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wonder did they have a studio in Silver Lake, or they just practiced out of their home?
No, just out of his home. He started with Yoga Works years ago, when they were big, and then just got on the path of, just almost like not even hardly the physical stuff, just so much more into the sutras and philosophy and how to weave it in with positive psychology and a lot of breath work and just less Western mainstream of most people's idea of yoga.
Yeah.
So, a lot of restorative stuff, but yeah, just it was a lot of information and a lot of discussion about the brain and behaviors. Addiction is so behavior oriented. So it was very much about how to use positive psychology, like scientifically proven techniques to, change behaviors.
I want to come back to that. So don't forget. Because I think that's really important for people right now. But what led you into substance abuse? Like, what led you into like wanting to work with people? Because it's a lot.
I just wanted to let you know where I landed. Because
we're coming back.
Yeah.
We are circling back.
It starts in yoga and then it transitions into coaching. So my own personal experience with addiction and mental illness, emotional sort of a struggle. Mood disorder is what, most recent, psychiatrists would call it. But primarily all rooted in addiction and substance abuse, substance dependence, so those words are also like, they just have a different charge. But starting really young at like 13, from 13 to early college, there was just a lot of alcohol and drugs. And as over time, I just felt my body and my brain just failing. Just really failing until, I was a young adult out of college and just struggling for all those years, trying to just seem okay, be okay and pretend. And then I just couldn't, like really shit was broken. Like I just couldn't, my thoughts couldn't process physically. It was a breakdown.
Did you have any inclination that you were addicted to alcohol or substance at that time? Or were you just like trying to, power through?
I knew it wasn't helping.
Right.
At all. And so when I made the decision to move to Phoenix, Arizona from Brooklyn, New York, and find
I'm actually from New York originally. My sister lived in Fort Greene for years, but yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
You got all the cool stuff.
I'm the coolest person you guys. No, I'm kidding.
So in my job situation, I was working as a flight attendant. I was furloughed at that time because of 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So it gave me an opportunity to what am I going to do? This is a perfect time to just go focus on your health. Like this is an out, go to the desert. I had some family there, so my sister primarily.
Oh, was there a moment that was like the pivoting moment, or was it just a gradual, like I can't do this anymore? Or was there like a distinct moment?
It was gradual but intense. I mean, I was really just kind of like, whatever the saying is, when you're just, you know, clawing at, you know, just something, just holding on for dear life, just trying to like get through day to day with my work. I was honestly waiting for my benefits to kick in so I could get therapy and psychiatric help.
Okay, so you knew you had to take care of what was going on. Okay, yeah.
So, but at the same time, it was like I was really trying to get into yoga too. I just knew there was a voice inside me for years and saying, get into yoga, get into yoga. And not because of the physical thing. It wasn't like, go, you need to go move. It was like, this shit is for your brain. It's for like, yoga is for your head. Go get into it. So I started in New Jersey. I would like just trek into the city and find some great yoga classes if I could, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was almost, there was something in me that was a driving force. Like it was, you know, I was trying to run. I was changing my diet little by little. I was starting to investigate stuff, but I'm still drinking a little bit. I still had a little bit of a fix to carry me through. And not even that much, but it was still like, and then, so I decided when all that happened to move to Arizona and find doctors and find the kind that I resonated with. I knew that I was going to walk into a therapist's office and they were going to say, okay, here's Zoloft, here's this. And I did not want to go that route.
Interesting that you knew that though, because most people just want those fixes. Okay. I shouldn't say most people, but there is a large demographic that literally just wants a quick fix, like make it go away, make it stop.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's interesting to me that you actually chose modalities where you're working on yourself rather than like having something fix you. I think that's really interesting.
Right. There was just something inside me that knew, you know, and obviously this is like my calling. So it just, you know, it's all meant to go that way. And I had a little bit of experience with that stuff in high school anyway. You know, I tried to go on something, my parents had me go in and like, you know, Kaiser and then, you know, just give me something because I was just an out of control teen or whatever. Didn't work out well, didn't last long. And so I just started to follow my heart, my intuition. And I was just so against the pharmaceutical industry and I just knew that there was just so many people on drugs that didn't need to be, or they were just going about it the wrong way. I just wanted to do everything I could before I went that route. I wasn't moving it out, but I wanted to do everything within my power before I made that choice. Just so I knew, like, you got to know your baseline before I just knew it was going to be too many moving pieces. It was just so I did. I moved out there. I found a functional medicine doctor. I went through, you know, a couple different ones until I landed on the right one because I knew body chemistry was huge.
Yeah. I learned that a bit ago too, for sure.
Right. Clearly, when we both study that and we both know how important nutrition is and how it's everything.
Well, I experienced it and I'm still going through it. Like even today, like, you know, I even like right now I know that I need to see a functional nutritionist or a functional practitioner because I can feel something is off. Like
me too. I'm doing it next week. I'm going to like restart again. It's been a year and a half and I feel like kind of got off track a little bit. It's time to go get my blood work done.
Yeah.
Like see what's up.
Yeah. And I am not like hyper vigilant about that stuff, but like you can feel when it's not just when your moods aren't just what's going on, you can feel that there is a chemical switch. Like I can feel a chemical switch within my body. And I'm like, this isn't just these issues out here. Like there's a trigger and it's making it harder for me to function.
Right.
You know, and it doesn't come across like a bellyache or something like that you would associate with something physical. It comes across like me, like not having interest in my life, like me getting really upset about something. And I can feel that there's an internal imbalance rather than a story. Right.
I had a couple major kind of switches like that throughout this whole experience too. I mean, your sounds a little different, but I get it.
What was yours, especially with your experience with the functional doctor?
Well, just back in the day, I just remember those clicks. That when I was really declining, I remember a couple specific clicks. So I think mine were really intense versions of what you're talking about right now. I mean, we just know it. Our brains are like, you know.
Let me tell you, it's like taken me 15 years to know that it's not just me and my personality, my heritage, and my upbringing. It's an actual physical, chemical imbalance because of what, you know, my lifestyle. And you can be the healthiest person, but if certain components aren't balanced, you will sabotage yourself.
Right. And we're chemical beings. We're biochemical beings, you know, which is, I don't think a lot of people think about. So like, and what you just said about, you know, your heritage and all those things, it's like, yeah, well, go just get this biochemistry, just see if there's anything off first before you start like diving into like all of your family history and your trauma. Like get this, you know, do as much as you can just with this thing to work right. You know, just like taking your car into the shop to get, you know, just, you know, so exactly. Same sort of thing. So I'm glad you're going in. I'm glad
I'm going in, girl. I am going in. I'm just like, I can't, like, just exactly what you're saying. Just so that you have half of the discomfort is not knowing. Right. And so if you can at least cross off as many boxes as you can, you have a better assessment of like what is going on. Like I talk about this probably almost every talk, but you know, I've been caffeine free and alcohol free for 4 months, which is a really big deal for me. And it was just because I didn't know what was happening inside and what was, again, like a story, what was these things dictating how I behave. And so I had to at least remove the major players so I can see what's going on. Right. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, just go get checked out so that if anything, you can remove, you know, what a physical chemical dysfunction from the scenario of what's happening to you.
Right. And I think you used yesterday when we were on the phone or another time, it's just the idea of just shooting in the dark, you know, like just make it simpler. Like just, you know, get that shit figured out. And then you're not like buying supplements left and right, the ones that are newest on the market for your brain or for your this. And it's just like, it's a waste of money and it's a waste of, you could do it a lot, you know, more effectively. So
and you could do a lot of, you could do a lot more damage that way too. Cause you know, for instance, even vitamins, some vitamins have a toxicity level, but like if glutathione is on the market now, or like particular, like vitamin D, like these all are great vitamins to have. But if you already have enough and you start listening to what you should be having without actually going and getting your blood work done, you will create a chemical imbalance and then create other problems, because all of those vitamins and nutrients are in a beautiful harmony. They work together inside your body. Right. So if you offset one, you offset a whole bunch.
I know that's like it's like a chain reaction.
It is. Chemical reaction.
Like,
it's a chemical reaction.
If they're like poor quality and then it's just crap, you know, it's like there's so much. I'm really passionate about this subject. Sometimes I go off on it with people who are just like, they're just not ready for the information. They don't, you know, they don't understand the importance of it yet. So I bring it into my business, but I have to, like, you know, you have to come in slowly, or, you know, just introduce it in a way that, you know, it can sink in when they're ready for it. But it's just such a huge one. I just want everybody to go get a functional medicine doctor and compare what they say to their traditional, you know, like Western healthcare system doctor. And it's dramatically different.
It really is. And, you know, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, and then I want to go back to your story because it's super fascinating. Is that, you know, Western doctors have their place for sure. Like my mother is a nurse practitioner. I'm one of my best friends are doctors at Kaiser and all that. Yeah. But they're also trained under the same system. So there are so many things that they just have not been trained with. And so if you see a functional doctor, they have both. They have both the, you know, they can read your blood panel, and they can also find root causes that, you know, a Western doctor just isn't trained. Yeah.
I know all those things. And nutrition, like there's like, I don't know, I think I learned there's 20 hours of nutrition in your entire doctorate program to be a medical doctor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think it's changed, and just, there's a lot that we could probably go on tangents of.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like not no one's fault. It's just they're trained under the same system. Yeah. And so people take, you know, a lot of doctors' words for it, but you have to understand, you should be able to question, and you should question just because they have had 7 years of medical school, which is amazing. And yes, you should definitely listen to them, but at the same time, do your own research, because again, it's the same one system that they've usually been trained under.
Yeah. And there's so much information out right now. It's like, take control of your own. Don't put yourself in somebody else's hands fully, you know, like you just, especially when it's, so yes, we can, I'm sure.
But yes, but anyways,
on and on.
Yeah. Because it is that important, and we might circle back to it. But so you moved to Phoenix, and you worked with a functional practitioner. Yeah.
So I started doing that, and got a therapist, and I'm going to open my curtain so it's a little lighter.
Yeah, sure. We like bright light.
I know. It's a little bit. So yeah, I found a therapist. There's so many serendipitous things that happened. Even just the way I found my therapist, he happened to be from the same little tiny street that I lived on in New Jersey that I just moved from, like in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and like just things like that. And so just things were lining up, and clearly in a way like, okay, you're supposed to be here, or just whatever this is. You're supposed to be doing what you're doing. So yeah, psychiatrist, him, yoga. You know, I was basically knocking on this door, this yoga studio that my sister sent me the information for before I even moved from Jersey. So I was living in Brooklyn. I moved to Jersey to be close to the airport as a flight attendant. Right. And that's how the move came from Jersey. And so yeah, she told me about this yoga studio that was going to be opening. And so as soon as I got to Phoenix, they weren't open yet, but I was just at the door. I was their first student in. I was their first work trade, you know, employee. And I was just there religiously. And, you know, it's just, and we'll talk about it more. Recovery is just such a shitty, awful time, especially if it's like substance abuse. I don't know if you've ever heard, but they say, and it's very true, that you go back emotionally to developmentally to the point where you started. So if you started drinking at 13, you didn't stop till you're 23. Your emotional maturity pretty much halted at 13. So you pick back up as a young adult with that sort of maturity level in a lot of ways.
While you're recovering?
Yeah, because you have to kind of make up for all those years that you didn't develop sober, and you're just in all sort of addictive neurobiochemical, you know, patterns. So there's just a lot. It's, if you ask anybody who's gone through addiction and come out of it, and who's maybe started at a young age, you go back. I may not have gone all the way back to 13, but I definitely went back to, you know, teens, late teens.
What was that like? Do you mean like you were like experiencing emotional, like,
it's
you
just
know?
Awkward. Well, let's see. You just feel really awkward. You don't feel comfortable in situations. This is not, you know, specific just to that, but you know, like just things that you learn as a teen, as far as like coping mechanisms and, you know, like dealing with interpersonal relationships. There's just a lot of dynamics that you just learn by osmosis and through experience through those years that you just, you know, when you're no longer under that influence or having that fuel source or whatever it is, all those dynamics, when you no longer have it, the shit's not connected anymore, you know, or it has to connect in a new way. It's just awful. That's all I can say. It's hard to explain.
Did you have it, and you had someone help? Yeah.
Really awkward time as far as just like relationships and communication and understanding. And, you know, you just think about an immature adult, you know, immature adults. I know immature adults.
Hell yeah.
I'm, you know, still I'm
sometimes.
Yeah. But it's that sort of thing. It's just like an emotional, developmental maturity that has to catch up.
Okay. Did you have somebody working with you through that? Or were you just like, what is happening to me?
Well, you know, like therapy and, you know, putting myself around people who I knew were safe. You know, part of the reason I wanted to be in Phoenix was I just wanted to be somewhere where I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. I knew I was just going to be I knew it was going to be an awkward mess for a while. And it was going to be really hard to be that way in front of people that I knew and I cared about what they thought of me. You know,
this is a really smart that's a really smart choice.
Something took over in me for sure for a long time. So I was around family who, you know, are unconditional, you know, they love you unconditionally. Like relatives. My immediate family didn't quite understand what was happening, except my sister who was there. And then the yoga studio. You know, you're in a yoga community and we all have our shit for sure.
Right.
It is pretty much a safe, loving environment. And that's where I really like. I would say that's where a ton of my healing happened, was just showing up for classes, getting close to, you know, my teacher, the other students. I was there every day, sometimes twice a day. And it was between therapy, hiking, yoga studio, my doctor's office. I eventually went to 12-step meetings, which I'll tell you about. And, you know, then sitting on the porch studying nutrition and trying to do my own yoga practice, and then going to a different, you know, energy healer, acupuncturist, or Reiki person, whoever I was learning about through all the people in the yoga studio. I feel like I created my own either treatment center or IOP program, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
I didn't know
totally
that
did.
I didn't know it existed in one big package at treatment centers. Not that I had the 20 grand or whatever to do that anyway.
Right.
I went and found all of those places and spent all the money that I made at work on healthy food, on my therapist, on my doctors. Because, you know, functional medicine, you have to pay out of pocket. So,
yeah.
And, you know, so it was, that was, and my therapist kind of tricked me into, I didn't know that I had like an addiction problem or that I came from any sort of addiction background until I stopped drinking at that moment and my brain stopped working. And I was like, fuck, that was, I think it was dependent on alcohol, even if it was just a little bit a day for my brain to work. And for
so you were like foggy, you were just not like, things were just like slow speech, like you're just like.
Yep, all those things.
Okay.
And worse than they were before. I knew I was declining, but they just got worse. And even
did you go cold turkey at that point when you
well,
stopped drinking?
already weaning, like
right.
This is funny. This will be a funny, vulnerable thing for me to share. But in Jersey, all I was basically having was one of those little, you know, airplane little Chivas Regal scotches.
Yeah.
A day. That was my daily thing. I wasn't drinking a ton, but that was my go-to over ice. It was like my little ritual. So it wasn't like I was still going out with friends and getting trashed.
That is the worst scotch, girl. If you're gonna have
like one of my last trips was to Scotland. I was like, fantastic.
Oh my god.
Flight attendant. But so yeah. I mean, my cold turkey wasn't like going from binges to that.
Right. Okay.
I was weaning off of everything for a long time, but it still affected me, just not having that one fix every day.
Right.
And so in therapy, so that's when I was like, oh, there's something that was like, I think I was dependent on that. And then in a strange way, my therapist kind of tricked me into like, you know, I wanted to leave the job I was at. And he's like, well, I hear this other place, you know, this new place that's opening is looking for good servers. Because I was waiting tables at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, great. Little did I know he was an investor, and he knew that the owners were both in AA, like full on 12-step sober environment.
Wow.
So I go, I get this great job. It happens to be like, ends up being like the best place to work in Phoenix from that point on. Like it was so serendipitous in so many ways. But you know, one thing led to another. I have this exposure to the 12-step world, and then something clicked, and I was like, huh, maybe, you know, I see some similarities here. Maybe this is something that I should explore. And I also feel like I was already doing 12-step work. It's just weird. You know, we just as humans, as spiritual beings, if you believe in that, there is an innate thing that happens when you start doing your own work. It makes it makes you want to make amends to people. It makes you want to get vulnerable. It makes you want to admit shit. It makes you want to get help. It makes you want to help others. Like those things, they're part of the 12 steps, but they happen naturally. 12-step program is just great because it's a little bit more formulaic, and then you have specific support, and it's available, you have meetings, you have things to keep you steady with it. So
accountability.
It's a phenomenal program that I don't fully subscribe to. Like there's a lot of it that never resonated with me.
Right.
I went in and I did the work and I got the experience and I gleaned so much great stuff from it. But ultimately, I never fully signed up because there was just so much disease mentality with it that never resonated with me, as far as just like, you're always an addict and, you know, this idea of relapse. And also, I'm such a functional medicine person. I'm such a holistic person.
Right.
And that, you know, it's a spiritual program. It literally is a spiritual program. It doesn't focus on mental or physical necessarily.
Interesting.
So, you know, to really get a holistic experience, you have to focus on those other two. And I just didn't meet a lot of people who did. And oh my God, this is my teacher, Eric Wall.
Hi.
And just signed up. I haven't talked to him in years. Eric, I'm just talking about you and Yogapura and how you changed my life.
Talk about serendipitous. Welcome.
I might cry. I might cry.
Wow. Welcome.
Okay, now I have to track back to where I was. So yeah, the 12-step thing, there's just a lot in it that didn't resonate, but there was a lot that I got from it, and I wanted to have that in my life. So between Yogapura, 12-step, those things that I listed, that was my little womb for a while.
Yeah.
And then And then ultimately, you know, I started doing recovery workshops, recovery through yoga workshops, because there's just so much in the yoga philosophy, and especially from Eric in particular, that I learned about life transformation, how to use the tools, the specific tools of yoga to work with your brain, with your mind, with your patterns, with your lifestyle, everything. So it was really powerful, and it was, for me, with my experience, it was easy to overlay that into addiction recovery. You know, there was just a lot of stuff that led perfectly to practices you can do in the studio that you could take out the door, you know, into your recovery work.
What were some of those? Because I feel like a lot of people associate yoga with something physical, like you said.
Yeah.
But yoga, you know, yoga means, what is it? It's not the science of life. That's Ayurveda. Yoga is, what is yoga meaning? It's like the light of the soul.
Well, yoga is to yoke. So, you know, to yoke mind, body, and spirit. To,
right.
You know, the whole point of yoga is to relieve suffering. It's
right.
really stilling the fluctuations of the mind. So it all goes back to the mind.
Right, because yoga yoga is meditation manifested. Like people, swamis or beings were meditating, and then yoga came out of their meditations, and that's my understanding of how yoga, the physical yoga, actually came about. It's physicalized meditation.
Right. I mean, my training is from the Yoga Sutras, you know, and there's a portion of the Yoga Sutras that is about, you know, asana. There's a part that's about the 8 limbs, and a portion of that is asana, and the rest of the book is, you know, yoga science and all sorts of stuff that's, you know, really deep and spiritual.
Yeah. So what in particular were you taking from that and applying it into your own personalized therapy? You know,
well, a lot of it is svadhyaya, so self-observation, learning how to step back from your thoughts so that you can watch your thoughts. There's no way to really change your mind and the way you're thinking and behaving. I mean, your emotions are a direct effect of what you're thinking. Right. So if you're having an emotional, you know, crisis, go back to the root and try and neutralize it there. So the practice of, you know, self-observation is learning to cultivate the observer, you know,
right.
What a lot of people talk about. So
you can't really change anything until you see it.
Exactly.
Like,
you have to see
otherwise you're just like, something's off, something's wrong, and you have to actually be like, okay, this is what it is. And so observing your thoughts,
you have to see it.
You can see it's like coming, like you're saying, coming back and like, oh my God, these are the thoughts. It's like reading a page, or like listening to a radio. It's like, oh, that's what I'm saying to myself, and that's why I'm feeling this way, or making this association.
Yeah, all of that.
Like reading transcript.
Yeah. And it is.
You know, it's like, be like, and then she said this and this and this and this and this. And, oh, that part of this, that's what it was. That's one sentence that I keep saying to myself, and that's where I'm like being triggered.
Right. And it helps to have, you know, a very wise person, whether it's your teacher, therapist, all of it, to help you, once you see that stuff, kind of decipher it and see, you know, you don't always have the tools to deal with what you're seeing.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So there's that. So I would say that's huge. Cultivating the ability to observe. And that is through space. Like, you have to learn how to create space between those two. And breath is huge. The yoga practice, anything that can take you out of crazy mind, you know, and have you experience space and presence, cultivates that, you know, pause button so that you can step back more and observe. So the yoga practice is that, you know, being it physical as well. It still is. All of that stuff works together, but you show up and you cultivate this ability to be present, and then eventually, you know, hopefully leading you to be able to just sit and, you know, be in that presence, which takes people forever, including myself. So by doing that, I mean, and that's huge. So, and being in a yoga studio, a setting where you can do that on a regular basis is huge. And also you can see, like, the yoga mat is just a metaphor for everything in your world. Everything you do on the mat, you do outside the mat. When you're comparing yourself to the person next to you, you compare yourself to everybody outside of the studio. When you're hard on yourself because you did something, you know, wrong or whatever, that's what you do outside. So it's just this little microcosm where you get to see all of your tendencies without so much distraction around.
Yeah.
So
that's why retreats are so powerful.
Exactly. So we have so many reasons why retreats are powerful.
Yeah.
Eric tricked me into going to a retreat, by the way, which changed my life. It was also a horrible experience, but totally transformative.
Horrible experiences are very transforming. But my favorite yoga teacher in the world. I haven't done any yoga with you yet, but she would always. Why I loved her, she was just very modern take, and she'd be like, "You work your life out on the mat. Like the mat is where you work your life out on.
Yeah.
So you bring your life to the mat." And I was like, "I love you."
And it teaches
totally
you.
True.
It teaches you. It's exactly that. And it teaches you also the idea of finding your edge in postures. In postures, you want to find that place where it's intense, but you can still breathe, you know? And that's where the magic happens. If you can sit with that, breathe through it, and then, you know, let yourself open up to it or whatever needs to happen. It's learning to find your edge. The only way you can find your edge is by moving slowly. You move fast, you're constantly passing your edge. And when you're like in recovery and you're used to moving fast and just, you know, addicted to distraction of all kinds, you're constantly passing your edge. You're constantly falling down and like, you know, you're constantly recovering from getting yourself in trouble all the time.
What is your edge? What does that mean?
So like say you're in, you know, what's a nice deep posture? I don't know, triangle. You're learning triangle posture. And basically you're feeling your, you know, your inner thighs, you're feeling your hip, you're feeling your chest or whatever. And you're all of it, yes. And
yeah.
Like get to the floor, you know, for some reason. Number one, you see like, oh, I'm trying to like get somewhere. But you're feeling the intensity, and maybe you've just started yoga and you can't go very far because your muscles aren't used to that, like whatever. So your edge is that point where it's intense, but you can still breathe. You're past your edge when you're like holding your breath and the anxiety is so much that it takes you out of your practice. Everything goes back up into your head. You know, that you've passed your edge, you know, and that's where injury happens, you know, metaphorically and physically.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it translates really well into like moving slowly in your life and learning where your edges are, because your edges are going to be in a totally different place when you're living in a different way.
Well, what do you say to people who are like fast paced, you know, and like you hear the words like slow down, move slow. And believe me, my focus this year was to slow down because it's made the biggest difference. Even just like taking a little practice, like eating, like just sectioning off little parts of your life to practice that. But how do you deal with people who come to you that are really fast paced and you know that one of the first things to do is to slow down? Like, how do you work with people like that? Or what are some suggestions you can give people?
Right. I think one, you need to let them know it's okay to be how they are. Like, this is how you are. So we don't need to change you entirely. Where are some things where you can continue doing that? Like what sort of, are you a runner? You know, a lot of those.
I do. Yeah.
Runners, you know, they're runners.
Yeah.
They're all going to be in motion.
Yeah.
So, you know, where are some things that you can work with it that won't freak you out for giving them up? So can you start a yoga practice? Can you do 15 minutes a day of doing something slow? Can you just start? I'm a huge fan and proponent of addition before subtraction.
Same.
Because the subtraction, you know, that stuff kind of falls away when you add good stuff. You just try and take away your unhelpful habits and you don't have something to replace them. You're just anxious and you're feeling like that's when you relapse of some sort, or you give up on the whatever it is you're trying to do because you're miserable. Part of you's miserable.
Yeah. And the thing is you feel deprived too, and you end up,
exactly,
because a lot of those addictions are a treat. It's a way of giving back to yourself. Like with I'm the same way when I work with people with nutrition, I start with them and I say, listen, half your plate has to be green. The other half, you do what you want, like whatever. But just half of it needs to be green. I'm like, you want to have that burger? Go for it. But half the plate just needs to be green. Like add something. And again, like you're saying, once your body starts getting all those nutrients, you won't have to fight. I'm not going to have the burger. I'm not going to have the burger. You just were like, I don't really want that. You know, like but the compromise, and I'm totally taking this home. I really love it. Like give yourself places in your life where I can move fast. Yeah. Like instead of just being like, I gotta slow down. It's just be like, you know what? I get to move fast when I go for my runs in the morning. Like I get to like release that. Like I get to move fast when, you know, in other aspects where are like two aspects that feel good to me and that I feel like I could just slow down. And those are my focus. Like I said earlier, like eating, because my digestion's been like crazy, like just focusing on at least a few bites or whatever to slow down. It starts to overflow into other areas of your life naturally. You just have to have the experience of the results. And once you have that experience, you get addicted to those results, and you'll start naturally putting it in other areas of your life. That's what I found.
Absolutely. I fully agree. Yeah. And that goes for food. It goes for people. It goes for, you know, stuff that you take in, you know, like what you read, what you listen to, you know, like when you start just adding things that, you know, are a little bit better for you, the others, it creates a contrast. Eric, my teacher, used to say one of the things that I love is nothing is revealed except for in contrast.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
I know, and it's so helpful.
I'm taking that one home. Yeah, it is the contrast, isn't it? That's when you can make a difference, is you can see the contrast.
Yeah.
So did you start from your yoga practice? Did you start working with people that had substance abuse, or did you go into, because we were talking about major changes that can feel like a substance abuse, like going through a divorce, going through a move. Right. And I keep talking about what's going on right now. It's really traumatizing for a lot of people. People are having to face a lot of change that they were not ready for in their lives, or at least feeling that they need to make a change because what their past is no longer available.
Right. They're experiencing a lot of contrast right now.
A lot of contrast.
There's
a lot of contrast. It doesn't feel like black and white, that contrasting, but there's a lot of things that are of contrast compared to now, compared to before.
Right.
So how did you start working? Yeah, tell me.
I did start in the addiction recovery realm first, and for a long time. That's when I started those workshops, the recovery through yoga workshops, and that we were talking about different things that you could just metaphors and stuff that you can actually do, which I can tell you more about later. So I started there, and then as I went on, so that was years. Years of that in Phoenix. And then I moved to LA and started studying with that other person. The addiction and codependency guy and Ayurveda and all that kind of stuff. And then I came back to Denver after a really traumatic breakup. So this is where I'm from. Denver's where I'm from.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I returned here basically this coincides with, you know, the pharmaceutical medication part, which I didn't finish getting to. Like I ultimately, once I moved here after that traumatic experience, was like, okay, I've tried everything and my emotional imbalance is still affecting my life to such a degree that I'm ending up in trauma because of how it's affecting my relationships. So so finally I was like, you know, there's a huge part of me that never wanted to go on medication because I thought it was going to get in the way of my intuition. I was going to be a little bit more robotic or something.
It'll tell you what to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or it'll just, I don't know, I just won't find my life's purpose. It'll get in the way. It's, you know, this Western thing or whatever. And after, you know, numerous, really just relationships is what, you know, whether it's friends or a boyfriend or whatever, they get taxed by somebody who's just whoosh, 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 and gets into shit and then can't follow up. And then like, it's, you know, anybody who's quote unquote bipolar, it's hard to, you know, find a solid place with them.
Yeah.
And so I had a really hard time finding solidity in anything. And I was like, okay, fuck, how many more relationships are going to be taxed or ruined in my life because I won't try this last thing? You know, and if I lose my intuition, so be it. At least I'll have a consistent relationship in my life.
Right.
You know,
right.
It's like to that point, like whatever, give me what you got. Just sign the script. I'll take it all.
Wow.
But fortunately, I found a great therapist who I moved here for. I found a great psychiatrist, and it changed. It was a huge game changer. I had a lot of game changers over my life, but this is the one that has made everything stable for the past 5 years.
Wow.
And in that stability, you do tap into your spirituality more because you're not constantly recovering from, you know, stuff that you've created because you're imbalanced. So you're more efficient with your time and energy because you're not constantly on a roller coaster. So, you know, so I'm not the one who's I want to give permission to people to. There was a lot of like, do not go on medication in the 12-step program. There was a lot of frowning upon pharmaceutical medication. And so there's that, which So as far as that world goes, I want to be one of the examples of do it all. Do all those things that are helpful to you. And if you still need something that will get you to the meetings, like if you're not stable enough to be consistent with the therapy, what's the point? So if you need something to get you out of bed and to your therapist's office, to your meeting, to your community group, whatever, take that thing.
What do they have you? What do you want?
Lamictal. It's a anti-seizure medication that they use for unipolar and major depression.
How long have you been on that?
5 years. Yeah. Best thing.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say it again.
I was going to say, those are two big things. I'm not like, I've come full circle with that pretty much. Like, you know, I'm going to give people permission to do that. Sometimes they need permission from somebody who's gone through it and is there. I've had numerous friends just be like, thank you for giving me permission to do that. It's changed my life.
Yeah.
So between that, and I'm also not a poster child for sobriety. Like, I work with people in recovery. I used to work just with people in recovery, and not as a coach. I wasn't certified back then. I was just doing recovery workshops. And, but I have, you know, I drink. I've found a healthy relationship with alcohol in my life.
That's amazing.
I can't drink much because it makes me feel like shit. And it gets in, you know, it makes my teaching shitty. It's just not great. So it's more of a choice of, I'm not going to drink because I know it makes me feel like shit, rather than I'm not going to drink because that means, you know, all the dogma of all those things.
Well, what you were like, again, I think you probably know better than I. With addiction, you're not just addicted to alcohol. There's a story behind that. Yeah. So it seems like you worked your story out. And so alcohol now is just alcohol.
And it's chemical too. Like,
sure. I mean, alcoholism is a metabolism imbalance as well too. It's when people say, oh, they're alcoholic, and the reason why is because they're lazy and they can't stop drinking or they're depressed. I'm like, no, it's actually a chemical, metabolic, physical thing to become an alcoholic. Yeah.
And so for anybody I'm working with who is, you know, really coming out of some serious years of drinking, it's really, they need to stop or whatever, wherever they're at. You know, my recommendation is don't go from being a binge drinker to just drinking lightly. Like, I stopped for 5 years. Like, you got to find a life that you're happy with before you even dabble. And in that period, you need to rebuild your chemistry. Like, you can't just like do the mental emotional work and still have a body that's charged and ready for, you know, a physical relapse. You have to get all this shit back in order so that if and when you do pick up a drink, it's not going to be like click, you know? Yeah. Physical, mental, emotional, all that shit.
I love that too. And just experiencing that right now, like, people think, well, you know, I haven't had a drink for 2 weeks, you know, I'm totally fine. I'm like, as a girlfriend who's been 4 months sober, each week is completely different because your body is rewiring itself and it's healing. So it's altering all these pathways that have been damaged from alcohol over time. Yeah. It's literally creating a new body, and for me, new stress levels. And it literally takes that amount of time. So if you think that, oh, I didn't have a drink this week, that like that's the cure all, it's a very different game once you get like I don't even know what 5 years in, but you need to rebuild your body. You need to build your neurons. You need to rebuild. Because, and I love alcohol, you guys. I love mezcal. I'm a Scotch girl. Like, I'm not demonizing alcohol at all, but it will fuck with your chemistry. Even one drink, and 3 drinks is toxic. So it's like it has that power.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And it's
so how did you get into your practice now? Like, tell us about what you're doing now and who you work with and how you work.
So when I came back here, I decided that I wanted to get some certifications. I feel like I had so many tools over the years from my medical doctors, from my study of nutrition, from my from my teacher in LA, from the Ayurvedic practitioner, from my yoga training, from my life, that I had a lot of tools to be a coach, but I needed a certification. Right. So I came back and I got a wellness coaching certification and then an addiction coaching certification.
That's amazing.
And just so I had some credentials and, you know, some format a little bit, just some business skills ish. Right. So I got certified in those, but then, and then this house happened to me, the one I'm in right now, which I moved in here and I didn't even think about it, but my business coach, like the day before I found this place, I had to move out of my other one. She's like, well, do you want to like manifest a home with like a home yoga studio? And I was like, I didn't even think of that. Like, cost wise, I don't know how I'd afford something like that in Denver. Like I would probably just have to move into another apartment. Anyway, this house fell in my lap with an amazing, this room that I'm in right now is my, you know, yoga studio indoor. And then I have a huge outdoor space that I built.
Wow.
This 15-person yoga deck with.
Where are you in Denver?
Down by DU.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Giant tree in my backyard. And I just had this vision of, I was like, wow, can you, I don't know. So I found this really cheap way to build a yoga deck. My dad and some friends built this giant yoga deck for me. It's carpeted. It's amazing. Under this giant tree, I have indoor space.
Oh my God, so, Nikki, this is amazing.
So, well, I'll tell you in a second. So that kind of happened to me, and a lot of my attention and energy went to building up this home studio and not as much into building out my coaching business. Because who doesn't want to work for themselves out of their home?
Right. It's just sort of the big tree and a deck. That's amazing.
Yeah. So a lot of my energy went into building this and getting a home studio and student base started. And side note, so my favorite mantra from Sanskrit is so hum.
Yeah, I am.
I am that. And I've taught it through all my recovery workshops for years. I used to give little keychains with Soham on them to my students. Like everybody loved that mantra because it's, you know, mantra means protector of the mind. Some people translate into that. So when you're in recovery is, you know,
we froze for a second.
Hold on.
Yeah, we froze for a second. If you can just go back, you said so hum it, and the mantra means the mantra of the mind. But anyways, so mantra means protector of the mind.
I am that, and it's just big and it's great, and it protects the mind. Mantras can translate to protector of the mind. And when your mind is not being very helpful to you in those years of recovery and addiction, it's nice to have something to substitute those thoughts with.
Yes.
And so I was
sometimes you just need to manipulate the hell out of it, like literally.
Yeah,
like even if you're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
yeah,
something to you know, get that monkey mind thinking not those thoughts that you're thinking. You don't have to go into those thoughts all the time, people.
Yes, all those things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was thinking of trying to figure out a name for my home studio, and my address is 1961 South Humboldt.
Humble.
Well, so hum.
Oh, even more interesting.
I know. So just like those things, like it's just serendipity. I have parking space for 4 people in my back. Like all these things, which is meant to be a yoga studio. So
yeah.
So I built a yoga studio. I've been focusing on that, and now I'm getting back into coaching. So only in the past couple of years have I started, you know, trying to get into that really and spread the word. And that's what I'm focusing on right now a lot. I'm taking this quarantine time, you know, where I'm not having to be certain places, and I'm not squandering it. I'm working a shit ton on my business, getting ready to do a big launch of just my coaching. Hey, everybody, this is what I do and what I want to do. And that's what.
So what do you do? Who comes to you? And like, I feel like, because we just spoke about it, sounds like you have your own amazing process. Yeah. So who comes to you? What do you do with them? And yeah.
So it's been interesting. You know, I'm definitely interested in working with people, you know, substance abuse, all of that forever. But I've also found that any major life transition, any really destabilizing one in particular, is has a lot of commonality with the aspects of recovery from substance abuse. The big difference is the chemical aspect. So, but it's the confusion. It's just so many changes at once. You can't see straight.
Yeah.
You don't know what your priorities are anymore. So this is like divorce or some dramatic, like, for example, diagnosis that, you know, you have this new thing that you're going to have to change your life because of. You know, these are just 2 examples of clients that have come my way that I'm like, yeah, this is the same shit.
Or right now, job loss is a huge thing.
Yeah, people
who never saw it coming are going through upheaval.
And that's like ego too, depending on what, you know, there's so many things that that are affected by a major change, you know, and you just feel like sometimes the confusion and the overwhelm of it is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You're overwhelmed by how many decisions you now have to make, or how many of your old habits and things that you did in your lifestyle do you now have to change because either this person isn't in your life or this job isn't in your life or you can't do these things physically anymore or whatever. And it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And do you know what's so weird, and I hope you can speak to this, is sometimes that's happened to people and they don't know they're being overwhelmed. What happens is people numb, right?
Yeah.
And they don't even know to come to you. And because they're still breathing, they still get up in the morning, they still do their same routine. So they're like, well, I'm functioning, so this probably isn't a big deal. Meanwhile, like, you know, there's this huge trauma going on.
Right. And that probably goes back to some of the contrast thing, you know. Well, two things. Some people have to reach a serious rock bottom where shit just, they're forced
to
make changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other one is people who are just like that. Maybe it's like, and also just stress will put you into that too, you know, they reach their max stress capacity.
Like you're saying, coping mechanisms that were developed for sure.
Yeah. And then, you know, maybe it's just some sort of a contrast that makes a difference. Maybe they meet some person and start a new practice. Like, oh, their friend brings them to a yoga class and they're like, wow, I've never felt anything like that 5 minutes of peace today. Or, you know, sometimes it's just an experience, or meeting somebody, you know, when you're open for change and when you're desiring it or whatever, often something will happen in your life where you're faced with an opportunity to see or learn something or switch a path. You know, I feel like, I mean, literally my last client was walking by my house, saw Soham Yoga and Wellness, called me that way. He's in the middle of a you know, horrible divorce. That's how he found me. Another one, you know, used to be in my neighborhood and had a diagnosis for a really serious environmental illness that he had to readjust his life for. So those are like two of the big things that I'm like, wow, I didn't expect, you know, these situations to come to me for coaching, and perfect, you know, so that sort of thing. So the way that I work is, you know, a really lengthy assessment, you know, initially, like
an intake.
Yeah, the full gamut, you know, and ultimately, you know, history and health and all that kind of stuff. And also, like, where are you? What do you want? Let's prioritize. And how committed are you? And out of these things, what interests you? And what do you think could possibly get in your way of you not following through? So get all that shit out, you know, on the table right away. And then I take all of that. And if they want to bring a yoga practice into it, I love that, because I can create all of that time I studied individualized yoga therapy. You know, I did also yoga for mood management with Amy Weintraub. She's the author of Yoga for Depression.
Oh, yeah. Wait, does she practice in LA?
She's East Coast.
Okay.
But she probably does different workshops.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's another Amy. There's some other big Amy.
There's a lot of Amy yoga people.
There's so many Amy yogas.
And again, you guys, Nikki and I are going to get kicked off in a little over a minute. For all of you who are joining us, we're going to get right back on. So just rejoin us.
Awesome.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll just stop and then you'll call me right
It'll
back?
stop and then I'll start the live again, and then you do exactly what you just did. Start watching and I'll request to have you on again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can take a lot of those skills and bring, you know, I find what I feel is going to be the best breathing technique for them, a breathing practice, the best physical stuff, maybe a mantra that you're going to work into it, or even a Sanskrit sutra. The physical postures that they may really want and like, and also ones that I think they need. You know, you want to like wrap what they need and what they want for a long time.
That's interesting. Why is that? Why is that, the need and the want?
Because a lot of people don't want what they need initially, you know? It's not fun. It's the shit that they don't like. It's slowing down when they're used to going fast. So it's thus giving you permission to go run 5 miles a day, but then you have to go do 15-minute yoga practice.
It's, yeah. I mean, I always take the want to the need back to, I used to be an actress, and I remember I was trying to get into this, this renowned studio with this very old acting teacher. And he talked to me, like, it wasn't usually audition for a studio, but it was a conversation. And he just asked me, the final thing was, he asked me one question. He's like, all right, I'll finish this story really quick.
Yeah, you cut out.
Yeah, no, I was saying, the acting teacher just asked me, do you want to be an actress or do you need to be an actress? And I was just like, I need to be an actress. And then I got in. But it was that, it's like very, because here's the thing, is the wanting is very like in front of you in life. And it's almost like you were saying, when you, like, manifestation is your need. So your subconscious is a need. What you actually need is very different than what's in front of your face, which is a want. And so the need is almost your gut. The need is your gut. And the want is all these like things that get in the way.
Or your need is your soul.
is your soul. That's your soul's voice. Exactly. And they can be the same, but oftentimes, you know, it's like expectations is like the want. And when you have expectations, what you've done is you put horse blinders on to all of the possibilities out there.
Right.
And, you know, but people are attached to those. And if what I want doesn't look like this thing, then that means it's not right. It's not what I should be having. Whereas there's so many other things that you don't even realize that could be, you know, even a modality that can help you change. Like a lot of people don't think, they're like, yoga, it's a physical thing. It's a blah, 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 blah. How's that going to change my life and change my mental processes and, you know, manifest into like, you know, me being comfortable with myself? People don't really associate that. Again, it's like get rid of what you think is going to help you and be open to what is actually helping you. Anyways.
Very wise words.
Well, so people are coming to you with changes, with things that have made change in their lives that has created a lot of discomfort. And so
destabilize is the word that I use.
I like that. I love that, destabilize, for sure. And so and if they're open to yoga, then you work with them through yoga, but you have your own process. You do an intake. And then is it almost like a talk therapy session with individuals from after the initial intake?
So we come up with, you know, based on their priorities. You know, a lot of my work is, you know, just I'm a pragmatic person, really well organized. I got a lot of tools in my pocket, so I've got that. I mean, I couldn't do this without tools.
Right.
And I have the ability to meet anyone where they're at, pretty much. You know what I mean? So if somebody wants to talk more of the yoga alternative new age language, I can. Somebody has no interest in that and it's a turn off, I can be more of, you know, like work with an executive.
Yeah.
You know, and just keep it very like, you know, type A-ish.
Practical.
So then I come up with what I think are good plans to go after their priorities, their top 3. And then I make sure, and I create a yoga practice if they want one. And a lot of it too. I also definitely, you know, I make sure we address mind, body, spirit. So what are they eating? What's their diet like? What is their physical exercise like? What is their, you know, time in nature like? How much sunshine? Do they drink water? What kind? Like those things are really important. So I focus on
it's chemistry. Too. It's like
that's
you're
my
chemistry
part.
It's not like a woo-woo thing.
Soul food. Yeah. It's got to be all that. So
but it's actually altering your chemistry. It's not the thing like you guys go take a walk in nature and everything's fine. It's like, no, when you actually get outside, vitamin D, fresh air, but it's altering your chemistry for sure.
And feeding your soul, honestly, like, you know, you need that contrast. So I come up with a plan and then they're, you know, set them free for a week and see, you know, how things work. Come back, get some feedback. If they do a yoga practice, and I record that for them too, so they can have that. You know,
that's amazing. That's amazing.
So they get both. And, you know, check and see what's working and what's not. And the first thing we go over generally are their wins. Like, what are your successes in the past week? You know, and then give me an update on everything. And then what's our homework for the next week? That's really how every session goes. And then they usually just take off and really, you know, the individuals have so much wisdom within themselves. And that once they're working with somebody with some accountability and somebody who's compassionate and non-judgmental, and just be like, it's okay if you fuck up. You're great. Like, this is all part of the deal. Like, I know how shitty all this is.
Yeah.
You know? So it's different than just somebody who's trained in this or that. It's like, I've been there. I can share with you my stories of how bad that sucked. You know, understand. So, and it just kind of progresses like that. If they work with me for a long time, halfway through, I give them a decent break, like a 2-week break, just to kind of like process a little bit more and then come back and change their yoga practice over, you know, in 3 months, give them something new, you know, because we changed. So now we're ready for more, one that's more about, you know, the first one's maybe more about just finding peace and steadiness. Like, let's calm down. Maybe they've come so far, they're ready for like action. Let's, you know, do some heart openers and kind of get some activation going on. So you got to move and grow with them. And so all those things.
And I love that. And I also love celebrating. Go.
I just remember and how important it is that I help them put together a team of other professionals as needed.
That's what I loved too, because we had spoken about that earlier.
Yeah, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I don't want to, nor am I trained to or feel comfortable diving into the why or how you got here. We don't need to go back into your past and your traumas, you know, deeply. That's for your therapist. If you need a psychiatrist, here's one. Functional medicine doctor, here. Energy work, here. Nutritionist, here's Beth. You know, like all that. I'm not the expert in those areas. I have experience in them all, so you can trust my referrals, and I can speak to what you're going to get from all these. But that's not how my time is best spent. My time is best spent putting together a plan, rounding them up, and making sure that you go and what's working and what doesn't. So a team. I like to put together a team.
I feel like you're the anchor, and you have all of these like ribbons that you're holding on to, and you can give them the colors that they need.
I like that.
And you're like, do you know what's so amazing? That should be your logo.
I'm trying to work out some of those images for my website.
It's so amazing because the life coach that I had that was a gift to me changed my life. And here's that literally did. And but here's the thing that I was going to say too, and we had spoken about this, is that I find a lot of, you know, clients coming to me and even just friends being like, there's something wrong with me. I think I'm going to go see this person, that person. And then that you've suddenly racked up like 5 different people. You don't know why you're not making change. And you've wasted all this time, this energy, and this money. Whereas if you see somebody like you who can kind of like spread out, like put all the pieces in front, and then like see exactly what angle they should be focusing on that will help with what they're experiencing and get them to where they want. I feel like you save so much money and time and energy just by going to somebody like you first. Like, where should I focus? And then like, it sounds like 70 to 85%, probably 90% of the time they can just work with you. But again, if like you do an assessment and you're like, let's get your chemistry balanced, let's do a panel, and then let's work together so that you can at least see, you know, if somebody's suffering from something that's a chemical imbalance, and then even use that within your practice. And they can be seeing a therapist, they can be seeing a functional medicine practitioner, and you to guide them. And I love the accountability too. And I also really love
that. You know, they just don't have it and they want it.
Yeah, exactly. And I also really love, I don't do this, and that's why I love it, because when I do, it's like, whoa, is celebrating your wins. We're the first person to be mean to, whether we don't know we're being mean to, it's our normal. I don't know that I talk to myself really harshly until like I get into a relationship too, and I'm talking to them harshly. It's the beauty of being in a relationship. You can kind of see how you talk to yourself. Like I've never talked to a baby the way I talk to myself. But celebrating your wins, I mean, I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson said the key to success is self-acknowledgement. And that's not in an egotistical way. That's literally like, if you want to progress, you need to, like you're doing, like you're meeting clients where they're at. And that feels so good. And it's like, and you're acknowledging them in a way that's like, well done you for like bringing yourself to you.
Yeah,
if you can do the same. Yeah. I mean, like that step alone means that you care about yourself, and you know that somewhere you know you're worthy of change.
Right. And so it has to happen in order to grow. Like, you know, you have to be empowered and know that you're amazing and you've gotten this much more amazing, and that wow, you know, just like you have to get all of that if you want to continue to evolve and be even more and more amazing. Like you have to do exactly what you just said.
It's like weight loss. Like once you lose that first 10 pounds, you're unstoppable. But you are acknowledging the fact, the scale is helping you acknowledge the fact that you've lost 10 pounds. You got to be the scale. You've got to be like, oh my God, we've done X, Y, and Z. And a way to acknowledge that is by having sessions with you, so that you're the voice to be like, to hold them accountable to creating that time to self-acknowledge. Otherwise the days just go by. But there's appointments with you, anchor them in a constant weekly check-in to self-acknowledge, to be the scale. It's almost like you're the scale.
No, I know. That's the metaphor that I got.
And you're showing them the 10-pound thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it, and you didn't even realize until later on. This perfect metaphor of the scale.
That's amazing. You really are. So for people watching, because we can go for another 10 minutes, sure. For people watching, and I know this is very general, because what I love is that you work with people individually, because everybody is so goddamn individual. Yeah. But if there was a couple, like 1 or 2 things that people who are going through life change right now, that's a little general, like 1 or 2 things that practices or things that they could do, what is that?
The first one that comes to mind is just go for a walk. It covers so many things. It gets you up, it gets you outside, it gets you sunshine, it gets you fresh air. And I don't mean a walk with your headphones, unless you're, Ideally a quiet walk, you know.
That's so hard for some people.
I know. And I'm just saying 5 minutes, whatever. I know, believe me, I know. If it's too hard, then at least have something that you know is going to be nurturing and positive. You know, like for me, like audiobooks and podcasts. I did a ton of like Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, like Oprah, all that stuff initially. I just had to inundate myself with the opposite of everything that I thought before.
The contrast.
I needed spiritual, I needed uplifting everything. But left to my own devices, walking quietly wasn't a good idea, really. Sometimes
because the same path,
come in, you know, if I practice some breathing stuff, like, so walks are just huge. And if you can't quiet your brain down, then at least either have somebody who's really nurturing and positive with you, or listen to something that is going to, you know, substitute something wonderful over, you know, something that's not helpful. So
I take a walk every single day. You guys, I never thought I would be the person to walk. That is just not my thing. But I did a 75-day, I did a 75 hard, this thing. And I required myself to take a walk every single day. Even if it was like 10:30 at night and I hadn't had my walk, I would boot camp myself out. I walk in the rain, you guys, because it makes that much of a difference. Like it literally, do exactly what Nikki's saying for a week straight, and then make the assessment. But I'm telling you, it's a game changer.
People discount the easiest stuff that's the most profound. It's the small things you can do every day are so much more powerful than the big retreat you go to once a year.
That's exactly what it is. That's so key. I think that's so key. Okay, cool. So take a walk every day, people. And if you're monkey mind, put something on that will contrast that. Like you've been talking about the entire time. So it's something soothing, something that gets your mind very, very calm and soothing. And what is another thing that people can do if they're experiencing life change and what'd you call it? Destabilization.
Yeah. I would say the other one is sit down and think about what you can add, not what you can subtract right now. Like, is there anything that you've been longing for that's been calling? Can you just take one step towards that and do it? Can you
give us an example?
Maybe you wanted to take a yoga class. Try a yoga class. Maybe you've wanted to join some other, like a book club. You know, maybe you wanted to, you know, get back into hiking or something that you've let go that you know is good for you. Don't focus on all this stuff that's not great right now. What can you do? One thing that's great. Take it. Like, do you love baths? Do you ever give yourself a night where you just go take an awesome bath? Like, self-care. One thing, just one.
It's amazing. It's just that one thing. And I feel like you're naming all my go-tos that I found this year because I take a bath every single night too. It's like my ritual now. I mean, it also has to do with the fact that it helps you sleep better.
Sorry, my neighbor just dropped off my dog. I had to say thanks.
Oh, okay. No, that's okay. But like it's also just it is that routine, and it's a sign to myself that like I'm paying attention to myself, because a lot of the times we don't realize that we're out here, and the very thing that the discomfort is you're actually not giving attention to yourself, and you're wanting attention. We all want attention, but we're all asking for it out here, where it's like the one thing who we actually want it from is ourselves. And so like something like a bath is like, this is my attention to myself. That's why like people like working out too. People say it's my moment to myself. It's that give back to yourself. But I love the adding in, the focus of adding in rather than like, what do I need to cut out? You know,
right.
And even that voice is so different. What can I give to myself rather than like, we gotta take this away.
Right. And we're all just so busy. What can, you know, as far as like to make time for little things for us like that, you know, well, I could be getting more work done. You know, we're just so addicted to so many things, like the doing like that.
Yeah.
And most people, like, they don't even like the term self-care. You
know?
I
don't either. It's off-putting to me as well.
I don't love it, you know.
Because of all that comes with it. Like, I understand what people mean, but it's just like, it's all this, it's an industry. It's got saturated really fast.
That's a really good way of putting it. So maybe if we can find a different term or whatever, just do something that makes you feel good, you know, something that's good for you. I mean, we take better care of our cars than we do our bodies most of the time, you know? So like, you know, just find something that is nurturing and do it. I mean, if you don't have any ideas, like there's some, you know, even just like I do so many, like, you know, the bath.
Yeah, give us some of yours.
I do oil massage, you know, just like coating myself in oil and then I take a bath. That one's super nurturing. Tea. I do tea. I listen to, you know, something. I'll just sit and listen to something inspiring, or I'll have that, you know, while I hike. That always charges me up.
Yeah.
Hike. I make myself like, you know, just, I love like super heavy, like creamy drink, like golden milk, you know.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people don't know this kind of stuff. So it's, you know, it's a treat for yourself that's going to have a positive outcome and not going to somehow take you down. So yeah, you could treat yourself with a piece of cake, and that is nice, but you may not feel great after. So you know you're going to feel good after a walk. You know you're going to feel good after a bath. You're going to know you feel good after a cup of tea. You're going to know you feel good after you call that friend that always makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's just pick something and do something.
Yeah,
you know?
and if you, again, like you're saying, if you don't know what that is, just like pick something that's like cool. Maybe like it's not calling out to you, but it's like, you know what, I'm gonna paint my nails, you know, or like, you know, not like, it's just something that's like you've never done, or it's like, let me take my dog on a walk in a different place.
Right.
That, you know, it's something new, and it's something like, it's an occasion, like making an occasion for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, like something I've gotten really into is guasa. If you guys don't guasa, you got a guasa. It's a jade stone. You can get it off of Amazon or whatever. And it's basically like massaging your face, and it will exfoliate skin. But what I found is that I'm like giving my face touch. It's like the weirdest thing. I'm like, it's like I'm giving myself a massage, and it feels like love. And I'm like forced to love myself because I'm like the harshest person to myself. But through this guasa, I'm like giving it this like stroke. And I did it for like, you know, ego purposes. So I'm like, listen, get rid of dead skin. I'm gonna have amazing. I'm literally like, because the girl that I found out about it from has like beautiful skin, and she looks gorgeous. So I went through like, you know, egotistical purposes, and there I am being like crying and being like, I'm stroking my own face. It's beautiful. Guasa, you guys. Like $10 on Amazon.
I want a jade stone. That sounds.
It's amazing. I do it. So I like the way that I remember to do it is when I take my bath. So it's like, again, like setting a ritual up for yourself really helps you be accountable, and that helps you make change. Because if you do it once, like great, but like once you do something consistently, and if it's easier, like you're saying, to just pick one thing, you guys don't try and change a million things at once.
Yeah.
Like I'm accountable because I take a bath every night. And so during my bath, I do my guasa. And so it's like, that's my accountability. And it's just like, game changer, you guys, and you look good.
I love it. I'm gonna, after we I'm gonna connect with you and find out.
Yeah, for sure.
Learn more about it.
I literally could talk to you all day. I feel like we have a lot of like synchronicity.
Totally, absolutely. Our mindset is very similar, and yeah. And I love your skills. I mean, your culinary expertise and gifts are mind blowing.
Well, I can't wait.
Every event that we've been to has been like it's been amazing. All the stuff you've created.
That's really sweet, and I appreciate you saying that. I mean, now we have an amazing team, and I can't wait to see you there. Like,
be there soon.
All the time. Please come in. But you're the first person I've gone a half hour over with. So, and I literally could go for another hour with you. Is there anything else you would like listeners to know about your practice, or if they're going through a change or destabilization, like anything that you feel like would help them? And also, they can find you. What's your website, people who are watching?
NikkiAiello.com.
So I would follow you on Instagram. Yeah, I keep interrupting you. I would follow you on Instagram, you guys, if you didn't write that down, NikkiAiello.com.
NikkiAiello.com.
Yeah.
So,
and if you can't remember that, you guys just DM Nikki, and she'll give you all the information. And she deals with people going through life transitions, and that's not death. It's transitioning into different areas of your life, whether it's divorce or a move or getting diagnosed for something that's new, or like I keep saying, everybody is going through massive change right now, job changes, or just you feeling lost and unstable. I don't even think you have to know what you're going through change. If it's that feeling of being unstable and you're at a loss and you're uncomfortable, you really don't have to figure it out by yourself. You can literally save yourself so much time and like trouble and just contact Nikki through her Instagram and she'll give you all the help. But
I'll say two things before we go.
Yeah.
Like, I did all that stuff, you know, in my journey. And if I would have had a coach at that time, it could have been much more effective. I could have been on more of a fast track than 15 years of, you know, I focus so much on healing, which is important, but honestly, action is even more powerful. One of my teachers used to say, it's easier to behave yourself into thinking differently than thinking into behaving differently. So the whole fake it till you make it thing is a little bit more powerful than just constantly being in healing environments and trying to heal. Like action really is powerful. And you get somebody to help you choose the right actions, and it can make things just go so much more smoothly and easily and save you money and all of those things, you know. So I will say, and also in closing, you know, as far as what we can all do right now, is know that anything that, you know, any big change in our life, whether it sucks or right now things are just like they're causing anxiety. Everything is an opportunity for something better. So it's a matter of, you know, just knowing that it's an opportunity. You're here. There's an opportunity before you. You just need to figure out what it is to come out in a higher place from whatever it is you're in right now.
I love that.
It's a choice.
And that's a contrast, that feeling of being unstable, and contrasting it with like, this is an opportunity.
Yeah, just the thought of it, you know, even just sit with that thought.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to do that.
Me too. I have to practice what I preach every day. Believe me, it's not easy.
Yeah.
I'm not the poster child for so many things, you know, and this is what keeps me straight, is working with other people. So it's all self-serving and giving at the same time.
That's beautiful. So. Well, I'm going to ask you the last question, but I feel like you kind of answered it earlier when we were talking about self-care. What is the one thing that you do to nurture yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I gave you a bunch of those. I do all those things. I walk, I take baths, I make myself really yummy drinks. I take yin classes. I light candles when I'm working, you know, like I make my environment great. I use perfume. I like makes myself look good when I'm at home by myself.
Yeah.
You know, like I just do things that make me feel good. I try and connect with people, places, and things that are higher vibration, and I make a point to.
Yeah, honestly, like if you are, the one thing that I'm so blessed with is siblings that are my soulmates, and also people, somehow I have like the most amazing people in my life. But here's the thing, we're not on this planet to be alone. If you are going down, sometimes you need to plug into somebody else's up. And that's not like, and you have to find those people, right? You don't want to go vomit on everybody.
No.
Like you need to be able to plug into those people who, you know, they're hearing you.
And they're already overflowing. You know, they're not depleted. They're overflowing within their share.
Yeah, exactly. You know? But plug in. Like you got to plug in and recharge off of somebody else's energy sometimes.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Provided they're open to it, for sure. No.
Yeah, and again, you have your people, right? Like you have your people. There's other people that you shouldn't do that to, and if you keep doing the same, if you keep saying your same story to the same person, there are some people that can really hold that, like my sisters and some really close friends of mine, and other people I wouldn't do that to.
No, you have to be very wise with your choices. So
yeah. Well, Nikki, this has been absolutely amazing, and hi Willow. Thank you, everybody.
I'm doing your program, Willow, slowly but surely.
Willow's amazing. Willow's she's having a Wednesday woo and wine Wednesday. Ooh. Sign up on her site, you guys, if you want to. Is it Woo and Wine or Wine and Woo? Something like that.
Wine and Woo, I think it is.
Wine and Woo. So sign up on Willow Bradner's website for that. It's a lot of interesting things. And you guys, I DM Nikki for her information too. And this has been, Nikki, this has absolutely been amazing. I could go on. Wine and Woo is called.
Wine and Woo.
Wine and Woo. But this has been absolutely amazing. And I could literally talk to you for another hour. And I cannot wait to see you in Nurture. Please come in. If you like milky drinks, we have a Lost and Lao, which is like our turmeric latte. Out control. Out control.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Really, I will be there soon.
Oh, good. Yeah, no. Come in whenever. It's grab and go, you guys. Everybody's required to wear a mask and all of that stuff. So, but we'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Nikki. This has been amazing.
That's